Hello, I'm Mr. Zeke, and I'd like to try something different today. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about sister ships, both in-game and in real life. Now, in World of Warships, there are quite a few sister ships already in-game. New York and Texas, Nixnau and Scharnhorst, and of course all of the Arpeggio of Blue Steel ships, the Congo-class sisters and the Miyoko-class sisters. I could air quote sisters because if you've seen the show, they have the uh, humanoid model things that are the working brains of said ships. But that's another thing for another time. But I just wanted to. Well, it got me thinking about some of the other sister ships that could be in game or would be nice to see in game, or more than likely we'll never see in game for various reasons. And well, I also had all this gameplay video of ARP ships that maybe I use for something or maybe not, and it's good for using for talking over. That's all I have to say about that. But the first ship that I wanted to bring up, if this turns into a regular segment, would be Arizona sister ship USS Pennsylvania BB-38. Now, obviously, at the time of Pearl Harbor, both Pennsylvania and Arizona were near identical ships. Admiralty facilities might have been a little bit different, but it's how Pennsylvania was rebuilt after the battle that really would have made it any sort of point of interest, especially as far as gameplay or aesthetics would be concerned. And this is where the story really begins. A strange side note was that when Pearl Harbor happened, Pennsylvania and Arizona were both supposed to have already been underway to San Francisco to be rebuilt. However, just before departure, a vibration was noted in the number 3 drive shaft of Pennsylvania. A real bad vibration that to put Pennsylvania in the dry dock, which is where she was during the battle. Strangely enough, that vibration was never fully explained or remedied during the course of the war. It always hung with Pennsylvania, and it kept her from achieving full speed, which, if used in game, would mean that Pennsylvania would be a full 1/2 to 3/4 knots slower than what her sister could have achieved had she had survived the battle. And as I said before, this vibration stayed with Pennsylvania throughout the course of the war. Many of her veterans would attest that they were, in fact, scared that this noise that Pennsylvania was making would have given away her position to enemy submarines. Luckily enough, though, Pennsylvania did not ever receive a torpedo strike from an enemy submarine. However, she was once hit by an aerial torpedo fired by a Betty-type long-range bomber. This torpedo strike caused heavy damage and flooding pretty much directly aft on the ship and necessitated her to be beached so as to prevent the loss of the ship. When Pennsylvania was eventually repaired, refloated, and began her long trip back to the United States, her war now effectively over, this number 3 shaft that had afflicted Pennsylvania for the entire war, when restarted, the prop just fell off, just dropped into the ocean, and no more vibration because there was no more propulsion coming out of that shaft. The entire war with something that was supposed to give you away, and then when your war is finally over, dirt, it's gone. Just a couple of other items of note from Pennsylvania's rebuild into what I like to call the 1944 variant, 44-45, was her secondaries no longer being the casemated single mounts that were placed in a superstructure, were removed, landed, and replaced with twin 5-inch 38 mounts, 8 of them, much like the ones that you would find on a gearing or the secondary armaments on a Cleveland or North Carolina or Iowa, and that they had effectively cut away the aft conning tower to improve arcs of fire for them. So, which gave Pennsylvania rather aggressive look as compared to what she was before, and that her anti-aircraft armament had been augmented with literally scores of Bofors 40mm and Okleron 20mm mounts, just placed in giant tubs all over the ship, which on paper gave it a rather impressive display of anti-aircraft ability. Think what the Texas can do at Tier 5, but then add 80% of what a North Carolina can do to Tier 6. And that's what comes to mind when I think of how a Pennsylvania 1944 variant would look if it went into game. As an aside, the main armament would probably stay the same as Arizona's if you look at the stats in game, since very little had been done to Pennsylvania's main battery as far as improvements to range. However, from talking to Marines that had served and had Pennsylvania used as the fire support ship, they talked of, although having a shorter range than most other ships, most other battleships, that Pennsylvania had to get rather close to shore, her accuracy was noted above others as far as dropping shells on targets that Marines needed taken care of. So I don't know, maybe that would get added into how it would stack up against Pennsylvania. Maybe the dispersion left to right might be a little bit better, but more than likely the range would probably be a little bit less. That's pretty much how I see this sister ship playing out. Again, I doubt that a variant of a premium ship would ever go into play in game. There is so much other things that can be brought up rather than that. But being that this might be a first in this segment, I figure I'd go with something I know a little bit about, and I've researched just a little bit about. And if all goes well, I'll get to do this about some other ships. And finally, as I look at my hero for the first time in this video, look at me! I'm a fire truck! Leave a comment or a like or anything you feel like if you feel like it. If not, I don't really care. I do this for fun. Whee! Fire truck!